Hi, this is Curt, and welcome to another edition of Fire Law Roundup.
Okay, let's go. If you've been dead and not watching the news, obviously, and Chicago and Memphis and all that, but Chicago, we now have a fire department paramedic has been terminated. A second one's been suspended following the investigation into everything that's all over the news. I'm curious though what they did. And then I want to ask if you are aware of another case, but I'm curious. They're dispatched, right, for naked man lying in a parking lot in 22. He's allegedly or apparently hallucinating. He's on drugs. He's transported to the hospital, but they claim that he wasn't properly monitored. Now that,
right.
The problem I'm having is, and then he arrests and dies, right? But I don't know what the not properly monitored portion is. Is it I was on my phone not looking, or we didn't put a monitor on? And what's weird about this is the driver also gets in trouble. He's also suspended. And so I'm thinking, why is the driver suspended? Like, A, is he a paramedic? And B, what did he do? He's in the front seat. I'm not saying that he should have been. I'm just asking the question, what did he not do? But the paramedic, I assume you're supposed to put a monitor on the guy, and maybe he didn't. And, but this isn't a lawsuit. This is just, you're fired.
I don't know what the restraints was like. I will tell you, whenever I see a case where someone arrested while in our custody or they're basically our patient. I spent a lot of time as a ski patrolman and in Rhode Island and Maine. And one of the things that they emphasize on ski patrol is once you restrain someone, in particular, we do a lot of backboarding and collaring. But
once not restraining.
They can't move, and that's the point. Once you restrain someone, you are 100% responsible for their breathing. Because they cannot, if they cough, if something blocks their airway, you've got them restrained. They are not going to be able to do what a normal person would do. So again, I don't know how this person was restrained in the back, but I know in fire service EMS classes, I don't hear that emphasized the way we do in ski patrol. We're on ski patrol. We got to bring somebody down 1,000 feet, down a slope, or however we got to do it. And that it's a little bit different. You don't have someone, and it's something that I've always been attentive to. And I notice that maybe sometimes the firefighters don't. I've seen medics have somebody on a backboard in the back of the ambulance, get out to go get information.
Right.
That is a absolute no-no. You got somebody restrained on a backboard, you're responsible for their airway. You can't leave them.
Right. I
don't know.
Yeah, I agree with all that. Although I've had this, I say we use the term package, not restrained, right? Look, Furno Velcro headsets, right? You're not necessarily restrained. Now you duct tape somebody, you strap them, you hog tie them like we saw them the other week, and you place them on their face and strap them down, you're restrained. I would say just in a headset, Furno block, whatever. Okay, you can easily undo that unless you can't. So there's a fine line between restraint.
Well, I hear you, and how much of that was in here? But one of the things I noticed, and that's the thing that drew me to this article and looking at it, was we had the two firefighters or two medics in Illinois charged with murder. Then we had two more from Illinois. These were from Chicago. They get disciplined over another patient death. And then now the next one is that whole thing with Memphis. And apparently there were medics on the scene, whether they weren't attentive enough, at least the allegations are they weren't attentive enough. And I noticed really started in 2016, we started to see lawsuits that we previously rarely, if ever, saw. And these are lawsuits against firefighters and EMTs who were at the scene of an unruly citizen who is at the wrong end of the police baton and passes away. And now not only are the police officers being sued, but we're starting to see the medics and firefighters being sued, and we've seen a dramatic increase. And really, we're going back to Michael Brown and you know what happened in Missouri there, but we're seeing an increase, and firefighters have got to realize that this is an area that it's emotional, it's hot, and you have got to be on your game when you're going with the police to these types of incidents.
Yeah, and you and I are going to talk coming next month on that. We're going to have an hour-and-a-half session on that very topic of, you know, who's in charge, and you know, the lawsuits that people are seeing, one of the causes of action, right, as we know, is denial of life or liberty. So when you are truly restraining somebody, you've denied their liberty, you've seized them. So I mean, yeah, we are open up as EMTs, first responders. Boy, you put your hands on a patient in a non-medical capacity and you're in a lot of trouble. And this includes, we're seeing like paramedics deliver Haldol at the police's request to calm someone down, right? I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know what it is that I get we want to bond with the police, but we're not police. So
yeah, it's a big problem. We looked at ketamine as another, you know, big problem area, but I think to the firefighters and medics out there, when you're going on a run to assist the police and they have just apprehended someone, whether they're naked and sweaty or otherwise impaired, or the victim of just having undergone some sort of altercation with the police, this is one of those events that, to me, should make the hair on the back of your neck stand up if you're concerned about liability. This is one of those things. It's like a Mayday where you've got to be on your game, because what you do, how you treat that patient, and the outcome of that could dictate whether or not you're going to end up with a civil suit or in that Illinois case. I forget what town it was in, but it wasn't Chicago. But in that Illinois case, the medics were charged with murder, first-degree murder.
Yeah.
You know, so there's criminal and civil consequences here.
And, you know, we haven't talked about this, but in my city of Syracuse, where at least my law firm is, there is just a case about 3 weeks ago where and it's a great issue. It's going to be in our course. We're going to use it, but where 2 medics responded with a off-duty police officer. The police officer got a call from his sister who was involved in a DWI arrest. So the Syracuse City police officer leaves his post, travels 10 miles outside the city, goes to interact with a cop, instructs his sister, don't answer questions, don't say this, tells them to fake you have a medical condition, right? All bad cop stuff, but enter the paramedics who then give her IV fluids, not needed, but only so as to dilute the blood alcohol. And they are now subject to arrest and I think have been terminated, but they're under arrest. They've been charged.
Obstruction of justice? What are they? Really?
I assume so. I assume so. All to try to dilute blood alcohol. So again, I think your point, my point is paramedics for the last 5 so many years or whatever are really getting a little brazen and overstepping their boundaries. And the simple one-word advice I think you and I have for them is don't.
Yeah, and I think you've got to understand is maybe they are getting a little bit more brazen, but I think the public is looking for people to villainize, and we are in their gun sights. You know, firefighters and medics, we're wearing a uniform, and people in uniform, to many people out there they're not part of the good guys. And we think we're good guys. I know we're good guys, but they're looking for people to blame when things happen. And you've just got to be on top of your game when you go on these types of incidents.
Right. And don't give in to the cops asking you to do things that you shouldn't be doing. I'm sorry, that's not my training. I'm sorry, that's not my job. I'm sorry, right? I'm sorry, but